3 young boys, 8 years old, riding bikes, exploring the woods, and then gone.
What happened next shattered a community, ignited a firestorm of controversy, and left behind more questions than answers.
Decades later, the mystery still lingers. The case remains debated, and the truth, if it ever existed, remains tangled in the shadows.
I'm Mary.
And I'm Nevaeh, and this is Occupation Murderer,
where we dive deep into the case, uncover hidden details, and ask, did justice ever truly come for the three? On May 5th, 1993, Byers, Branch, and Moore went on a bike ride around their hometown of West Memphis, Arkansas. And late that evening, police officers received phone calls from all three parents saying their child was missing.
The parents of Christopher Byers called at 8 p.m. reporting their son missing. They told the police that Chris was last seen about 5:30 working in the yard. Within 90 minutes, police responded to 2 more calls from worried parents. Dana Moore said she saw her son Michael riding off on bikes with 2 friends around 6, but never made it back for dinner.
Pamela Hobbs said she hadn't seen her son Stevie Branch since he left for school, and I thought that was kind of messed up because, you're not gonna worry about your son being gone the whole day, and you're gonna call past 8 o'clock saying that your son's missing.
But granted, it was the 1900s, and a lot of children were gone pretty much all day until supper. Because unlike now, children back then didn't have cell phones, video games, and all that crap.
Yeah. Alright, the next day, on May 6th, their bruised and mutilated hog-tied naked bodies were pulled from a string in Robin Hood Hills. Their wrists were tied to their ankles with their own shoelaces.
The body of Chris Byers was found with its scrotum gone and its penis skinned. The police announced the murders, and Terry Hobbs, stepfather of Stevie Branch, fell to the ground and wept. Rumors began spreading, saying that the murders were work of the devil worshippers and occult activity.
Not many people know this, but there was another little boy that was friends with these 8-year-olds. His name was Aaron Hutchison. I had found the interrogation where they were asking Aaron about Chris and Michael and what they would do to hang out. Aaron said that it was mostly Chris and Michael that he would hang out with. He only hung out with Stevie one time. I'm not going to go into much detail because it was like a 30-minute long interrogation, and it was very gruesome on how he explained it all. But the gist of it was that Aaron, Chris, and Michael would go into the woods where their clubhouse was. They would go to the clubhouse right after school. The police asked him what they would do down there, and he said, "We played, and then sometimes we watched these men." He described to the detectives that they were 5 men doing nasty stuff, quote unquote, what men and women would do. In other words, having sex. He told them how did they do it, and also told them that they rolled up cigarettes and smoked them, and they stunk. I would assume that it was weed, but that was not confirmed. He also told the police that they killed a cat. He said they chopped its head off, cooked it, ate it, and kept the head. Like I said, I'm not going to go into much detail, but if you want to read the interrogation yourself and get all the details, all you have to search up is accusations of Aaron Hutchison, and it should be the first link that pops up.
He also said that Stevie never knew about the men they watched. When the police asked Aaron what he thinks happened to them, he said that he thinks they went to watch the men and then they got caught and the men killed them. A little more than 3 weeks later, Aaron came back to the police with more detail. He told the police that Jessie Misskelley came to him and said something was going to happen to his friends. He wasn't specific though. Aaron said Jessie said, "You get your friends and I'll get mine, and we go down there and do something." The police asked him when they were supposed to meet down there, and he replied with Wednesday. The Wednesday they got killed.
The reason Aaron didn't go is because his mom said no. But although his mom did say no, he still went down there, and he just didn't go down to where everyone else was at. He said he saw Michael and Chris hiding behind a tree, but Stevie came in late and Jessie saw Steve. Jessie ran over and caught Steve, then everyone was caught. That's when Aaron said the men took his friends and killed them. He said that Jessie seen him and caught him. He said they didn't rape him, but they did touch his private parts. The only time the men took their pants off was when they raped Michael, Chris, and Steve. He said that all the men had knives and they stabbed Michael and Chris in the neck. Steve ran and tripped, and one of the guys reached down and stabbed him in the stomach.
The detectives asked Aaron who took off the boys' clothes, and he said Jessie pulled off Steve's. Jason, he pulled off Michael's, and one of the other men, I don't know, pulled off the Chris's?
It's because he was stuttering, because he was crying.
Oh.
A lot of people actually believe that Terry Hobbs, stepfather of Stevie, is responsible for the murders, with the help of 2 teenagers and his friend, David Jacoby. DNA found in one of the shoelaces used to tie up the boys matched to Terry Hobbs, and a second hair found on a tree stump in the crime scene area matched David Jacoby. Hobbs had a long history of abuse, including an admitted assault on his wife and accusations of child beating and assaults on neighbors.
Stevie's aunt, Judy Sadler, accused Hobbs of forcing his young son to watch him masturbate and of sexually molesting Stevie's sister, Amanda. Amanda incidentally said she could not recall any sexual abuse by her stepfather. A neighbor also claimed they saw Hobbs with 3 boys the night of the murder, but he strongly denied that.
Along with everything else, like them seeing the aunt seeing him wash his clothes, Terry Hobbs also had Stevie's pocket knife. And, this was back in the 1990s. Every little kid carried around a little pocket knife. Nothing was thought of it. And Stevie always carried around. He never went anywhere without that pocket knife. But somehow that pocket knife ended up with Terry Hobbs. So I do believe that Terry Hobbs could have been involved in this murder.
And Terry Hobbs was Stevie's stepfather?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like if he was his stepfather, then I feel like he would have more access to Stevie's things too, than a stranger. But like you said, it was the 1900s. Kids always had pocket knives and stuff. But question is how did Terry get the pocket knife if Stevie was murdered?
He was there. Sometimes whenever moms or dads get married and then the kid has a step parent, then there's always problems going on. It could be literally ranging from any type of problem.
Yeah, it was kind of like Snow White with her evil stepmother and stepsisters. However, Todd Moore, father of Michael Moore, didn't believe that Hobbs was not involved. He actually had his back. I found that Terry Hobbs, David Jacoby, and 2 teenagers named L.G. Hollingsworth and Buddy Lucas showed up at a guy named Stewart's house wanting to buy pot. Stewart sold the 2 teenagers the pot and then saw Hobbs and Jacoby kissing in a truck across the street. It said, according to Stewart, Hobbs was a bisexual with a preference for sex with young boys. Hobbs, he stated, had invited his own 10-year-old son to pool parties, invitations which Stewart insisted his son declined.
The 4 went driving around smoking weed and drinking whiskey before heading down a dirt road by Blue Beacon, aka where the murder happened, and Hobbs asked the 2 teenagers to get out and wrestle. While he and Jacoby watched, there's no doubt that this soon turned into a sexual activity, but it was very likely that during this event is when Chris, Michael, and Stevie appeared on their bikes.
According to Stewart, Mr. Hobbs walked over to the boy that Mr. Jacoby had been beating and repeatedly bit the boy's penis and scrotum, then cut the boy's genitals. Terry Hobbs then announced the other 2 boys had to be killed because of what they had seen, and Hobbs and Jacoby proceeded to do just that. According to Stewart, when he tried to call West Memphis police investigator Bill Sanders to tell him the story he had heard from Buddy Lucas, Sanders never even bothered to return his phone call.
If what Buddy Lucas did tell Stewart, then the police wasn't, in my opinion, if that's true, then he just didn't return a phone call, even though, that case could have been solved very much sooner. Then I think that the police was messed up and they just locked up 3 innocent teenagers, if that's true.
Did the case even get solved?
They blamed it on the 3 teenagers.
The 3 convicted teenagers were Damien Echols, 18 years old, Jason Baldwin, 16 years old, and Jessie Misskelley, 17 years old. Apparently, Echols was the leader. The reason the police went after these boys was because their presence in the area at the time of the murders and some suspicious behavior. Specifically, Echols being interested in occultism.
Echols had been under the watchful eye of a juvenile officer for some time. He had psychiatric problems, including major depression. In previous years, Echols allegedly had threatened his former girlfriend and the boy she was then dating, as well as his father. He was admitted to a psychiatric ward and placed under suicide watch. He was also transferred to a psychiatric hospital in Little Rock after biting and attempting to suck blood from the arm of another detainee, which I thought was disgusting, but
Vampire question mark?
yeah.
After hours of harsh questioning by Mitchell and Ridge, the same detectives that questioned Aaron, Jessie begins to tell the officers what they want to hear, that he and Damien and Jason committed the murders, but the police told Jessie that money was involved and they would win it. Jessie just started going along with what they were saying. He said, "I kept telling Inspector Gitchell and Detective Ridge I didn't know who did it, I just knew of it, what my friend had told me, but they kept hollering at me. They kept saying they knew I had something to do with it because other people had told them. After I told them what the three boys were wearing, Gary Gitchell told me, was any of them tied up? That's when I went along with him. I repeated what he told me. I said yes, they were tied up. He asked what was they tied up with. I told him a rope. He got mad. He told me, God damn it, Jessie, don't mess with me. He said no, they was tied up with shoestrings. I had to go through the story again until I got it right. They hollered at me until I got it right, so whatever he was telling me, I started telling him back, but I figured something was wrong, because if I'd killed him, I'd known how I done it." Police taped Jessie's confession. In the confession, Jessie talked about how he watched Echols hit Chris in the head. Then Jason turned around and hit Stevie, and Michael took off running, so he chased and grabbed him, held him down until they got there, and he left.
He said when he returned to the scene minutes later, all three boys had their clothes off and were tied up. He said, then they tied them up, tied their hands up. They started screwing them and stuff, cutting them and stuff, and I saw it and turned around and looked. And then I took off running. I went home. Then they called me and asked me, how come I didn't stay? I told them I just couldn't. Damien Echols was sentenced to death. Jason Baldwin was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Jessie Misskelley was sentenced to life plus 40 years. They remained in prison for 18 years until August 19, 2011. They took an Alford plea which allowed them to maintain their innocence while acknowledging that the prosecution had enough evidence to convict them. Who do you think was responsible for the murder?
I feel like it was Terry Hobbs because of the pocket knife.
I do too. I mean, whenever I was researching about this, I thought that it was Terry Hobbs and his friends and the two teenagers. But at the same time, the three teenagers, the Jessie, Jason, and Damien, I mean, how would Jessie would have known all the other stuff? Not whenever he was telling the police what they wanted to hear, but whenever he was going into detail about when they were screwing him and stuff, and then he ran home. Like, how would he have known that?
I honestly have no clue. I feel like at this point, it was probably like those three and like Terry Hobbs and who was the other person?
David Jacoby.
Yeah. I feel like it was probably all five of them.
Yeah.
Because didn't they say that there was like 5 people?
Yeah, Aaron said that they would watch 5 men.
Yeah. So I feel like, I mean, that was 5 people. So I feel like those were the 5 people.
Yeah.
Like, it kind of just makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense. And Stevie wasn't always with them, so, I mean...
He just got screwed over.
Yeah, it was, Stevie wasn't there, so he couldn't, like, speak up and tell somebody that, you know, his stepfather was there and screwing a whole bunch of guys. And Terry was bisexual, so...
Yeah.
This was a very confusing case.
It really was. And I also feel like it's screwed up about the fact that the police were basically forcing Jessie to confess and say what they wanted to hear.
Yeah, that's what,
just to put them away.
Yeah, that's what a lot of police officers do, and detectives and investigators, when they just want to get the case out of the way, they'll set the person up to make them say what they want to hear to put them in jail.
And it was like he was coaching him or something, like with what to say, and like making him repeat it.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us on today's episode. We hope the chilling tale you've heard leaves you questioning everything you thought you knew. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Until next time, stay safe.